Why is it that as people of color we're always having to stand for something?
Because the world's a racist place.
And that's why I keep it light.
Welcome back to the 26 and Glencoe Media Network. I am your host, Marcus Flowers, aka Flo, aka Call Me What You Want. Just don't call me lazy. And today I am joined by the budding comedian. I actually went to a stand-up a few weeks ago. He was hilarious. He is killing it on Instagram when it comes to his skits. I have known this man for almost 20 years, almost 20 years or so. Today I am joined by Chris Inglewood. Chris, how you doing today, man?
Hey, what's going on, Marcus?
Nothing much. Another day, another dollar. So first of all, how you feeling, man?
I'm feeling cool. I got $1 today too, so it's a good day.
How have things been treating you over the past few months when it comes to the pandemic? And you, of course, being a comic and doing stand-up, of course, you can do stand-up, but the scenes kind of changed. So how have you adjusted to just this new normal that we're in now?
Right. You definitely got to pivot. You know what I mean? You can't be in front of people. At least at one point, you really couldn't be in front of anybody. So trying to do like virtual shows and shit like that, and it's really not the same when you're on like a Zoom call trying to do a comedy show. You can't really hear anybody laugh. You can kind of hear other comedians laugh, and then people are typing in a chat. So it was pretty shitty for a while. But I mean, things have been opening up a little bit in Colorado, so I've been able to, like the show you were at with me. I was able to do a couple of those shows, which was good to get back in front of a crowd, and doing a show again on the 25th at Lawrence Larimer. So really looking forward to that, and just fearing that I would give somebody coronavirus and then one of their family members dies and they're like, man, that nigga wasn't even that funny.
Right.
But just trying to stay safe at all times and make sure everybody else is safe and having a good time. I think comedy is real important, and still got to make people laugh some way or another. So I really just been focused on writing and doing skits and stuff like that in the meanwhile.
Right. So you said comedy is important during these times. So how have you changed your comedic sense, or just changed your like aspect when it comes to comedy over the past few months?
Yeah, I mean, I was really working towards producing a show about like the last weed man in Denver. And, with everything that happened, I couldn't really start production, and the contracts I was trying to write, suddenly it got a lot more intense as far as like, damn, should I have a corona clause? Like, what I mean? Like, again, I have to pay for testing equipment and shit like that. So I kind of just put that on the back burner for now and focus more towards skits and doing things with just me and a couple other people, things that are like just a little bit more safe in the meantime, because I still want people to laugh, and laughter has gotten me through some tough times, and still want to produce something in the meantime and make sure that my name is being passed around in the light of comedy.
Right. No, for sure. You talked about so I follow you on Instagram. You talked about your skits that you've been doing over the past few months. What has been your favorite skit that you've done throughout this pandemic?
Man, throughout the pandemic, that's a good question. I would say my favorite one is the Dare skits, just because it's usually just my girlfriend recorded me saying random shit for like 3 minutes straight, and then I try to do a trick on my rollerblades or my scooter or skateboard or something, and then just the editing process, the way I'm able to chop it up, it turns out to a good product. So I think I enjoy doing those, just to see 3 minutes of me looking like a lunatic and then being able to edit it to something that's somewhat comprehensible.
Right.
For
sure. One of my favorite skits that you've done, you actually released it this week. It was the conversation at the bar when you're having a serious conversation and trying to get the bartender's attention.
Right.
That was so funny to me, because that literally is what life used to be like.
Yeah.
You're like out with like your friends and you're like talking like having like a serious conversation, like, yo, I'm about to buy this house. I'm about to do this. I'm trying to get this promotion, but hey, yo, I'm still waiting for my shot for 20 minutes ago.
Right.
Yeah. So, how did you come up with that?
Man, that's honestly like most of the skits I come up with be off of like real life situations like that, and like I've thought that before, and Isaiah really brought the skit up. He was like, because that island space I have in my apartment, he was like, man, we should do some kind of bar skit here. Like ordering drinks at a bar, and I'm thinking like, man, we got to take it to a different direction or a different level, something that's real unique. And like looking at the shadow there, we thought it would be funny to have my buddy Zach, kind of act like he's the bartender and just act with his hands with the shadow. And I'm like, man, that we everybody's been there where they've been at the bar, low key in a serious conversation, low key been a minute, and you want to get another drink. So you might be in the middle of, yeah, man, she pregnant, so we're going to have to hold on, bro. Hey, bro, can I get 2 more? Okay, in a second. Right. Okay, so yeah, bro, like I said, she pregnant, and no, just 2. You know what I mean? So
right,
that's kind of how it came up. But I credit some of that to Isaiah. You know what I mean? He definitely brought up the idea of it. But a lot of the skits and ideas I have come with bouncing ideas off of Isaiah. Or somebody else I work with on like a pretty regular basis. We just kind of joke around about shit that happens every day, and then a skit will come to fruition.
Right. No, for sure. So we're here to talk about Hulu, which is an original comedy special on, not a comedy special, but a comedy show on Hulu.
Right.
The synopsis is Keef is an African-American cartoonist on the verge of mainstream success when an unexpected event changes his life. With a fresh outlook on the world, Keef must navigate the new voices and ideas that confront and challenge him. Let me check actually. It stars Lamone Morris, who plays Winston on one of my favorite shows, New Girl, Rose McAver, Blake Anderson, Cheshire Zamanta, and T. Murph are some of the actors and actresses that were involved in this. So just Chris, what were your first thoughts about the show in general?
I mean, just in general, I love that we're getting more representation, especially as things shift to more streaming. A streaming platform. Is good to see that there's more representation of Black people and Black ideas, and I think that we're so diverse as a people that there's countless stories that can be told. So I really like that he was able to showcase his idea. I did have some critiques, but I mean, for the most part, I really did like how different it was, especially in dealing with mental health and also like living with a disability as far as like schizophrenia. I don't think that's something that's been looked at in the lens of TV in the way that they showed it, especially with actually showing his schizophrenic episodes and, having a freak out and things like that, or whatever you want to call it, having a panic attack, whatever you want to call it. So I really liked that aspect of it. And I think that that's something that's unique and fresh. And so that was really good to see. I mean, I think there were some things that I thought like it was kind of interesting, the approach they took, and I'm wondering if they're gonna tie it up in the next season or if it was kind of left that way on purpose. So like, I mean, just for instance, so like he gets attacked by the police for, wrong identity. He fits a description. If you're Black in America, you've more than likely been in that situation where you fit a description. And I recall my first time fitting a description, I was 13. And so it's something that happens and it's traumatizing. Yes. And, you know what I mean? And so it was interesting to see like later on, the actual dude who did rob somebody or whatever the case was, he actually robs the main character.
Right.
And I thought it was funny. I mean, just from it was kind of funny like that would happen, but just like thinking deeper into it, I felt like it kind of supported a separatist ideology as far as like, oh, it's black people and then it's niggas.
Right.
You know what I mean? It really didn't have a lot of background as to why he was robbing somebody. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes there should be a little bit more backstory so that we're not painted out to be monsters, which is hard to do.
Right.
And you know what I mean? So I think overall I liked the show, but there was a few things like that where I thought it could have been done a little bit better. Because it's not just black people watching this show. It's going to be everybody watching this show. And you don't want that negative image in the back of anybody's head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. If there's one thing that I really like just about woke, and it's it really just like speaking to where I'm at in my just like field in my profession right now, it's like the like conflict of staying true to yourself and also advancing higher in just like the field that you're in, and having to like sell out, having to come to that decision, or should I sell out more, or should I like stay true to the path? And you talked about schizophrenia and like stuff like that, but it's just like even before he has that, it's just like having those type of like internal conversations with yourself. You're just like, sure, I do want to stay true to myself, but at the same time, I still have like bills to pay. I still have like stuff I need to buy to like survive.
Right. And, absolutely.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, I mean, to your point, he wasn't really even thinking twice about it before the episode. He was getting ready to, move out of the crib with his buddies and kind of talked about them as though they were, kids or something like that.
Right.
Which, I mean, they are pretty ridiculous characters, pretty hilarious characters. But before that episode, where he got, hit in the head the wrong way or whatever that was, he was definitely, it wasn't even a contemplation to him. He was ready to move on to that new house, sign that deal, do whatever.
Right. No, and it's weird just because like when you go through those type of situations just in life, it's just like not everybody can come with you. And and we see that in the first episode when his girl, or first or second episode, when he breaks up with his girlfriend or his girlfriend breaks up with him. And it's just like the road he wanted to be on. Of course, she was there, but when you have like adversity, or you do want to like change or stay true to yourself, like not everybody can go with you, and not everybody is going to see your vision.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, if everybody's not on the same page, and especially if you're trying to build a team and everybody wants to be the quarterback, or everybody wants to be the fullback, doesn't matter. Everybody can't play one position.
Right.
So that's it gets to the point where it's either, your friends that you're close with, that you grew up with, either they have to, be humble and play a position that they don't necessarily want to for the better of the team, or you got to look at an outside hire. You got to get somebody else to do it. You know what I mean? And that's a tough thing to do, but at the end of the day, sometimes it's easier. As opposed to having, I mean, just in business in general, it's always easier to outsource and work with somebody else because there's no feelings involved. There's no expectation. If it's me and you, even, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, we've known each other for almost 20 years.
Right.
So I might be late.
Right.
I might be high. I might be a little bit drunk, but if you're paying somebody that you don't know, you don't have that 20 years experience with, there's just a certain level of, I want my name to still hold weight, and I don't want to set a bad example. And, you don't want to be drunk around somebody that you don't know, especially if it's something work related. I mean, that's just how it is, honestly.
Right. No. And if there's one part of this series in the first season I want to talk to you about. Well, there's two, but the first one is at the and just how it pertains to your career as a stand-up comic. The first one was when Keef and his friends were at the art exhibit, and it was in like a Soho House type of thing, and he was presenting, and when he saw the girl he was messing with, and she happened to be white. And then he flipped the script right then just to appease his audience. Has a situation like that ever happened to you?
Man, good question. Like, and it's funny because I was gonna bring up that specific scene too, because it's number one is interesting. It was kind of like he sold out to get clout in a black crowd. He sold out the fact that he was with a white girl or whatever the case was. So it was an interesting take on that, interesting twist. I mean, me personally, I will definitely kind of try to change the jokes I present, or there are certain jokes I won't do in front of certain audiences, just because, I mean, you saw it with the last show I did, like certain jokes, number one, people aren't going to get. And then number two, I think I say the N word around me and my peoples. I don't want white people to feel comfortable saying that. And I don't have a problem with checking somebody if they feel like, oh, well, he says it, so I'm going to say it. Right. I'll check somebody, but not everybody else has that. You know what I mean? And I don't think there's necessarily something wrong with that if they weren't the one that encouraged them to feel comfortable with somebody talking like that. Just because I say it doesn't mean a white person can say it. So I kind of, depending on the crowd, I have certain jokes I try to steer to, but the ultimate goal is to be on a level where everybody in the world can stream my shit and look at my shit. So at the end of the day, I want all my jokes to be, number one, funny, and then number two, you know, I want anybody to be able to try and repeat the concept of the joke to somebody without disrespecting us as a people or disrespecting me or themselves. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it gets hard, and that's something hard you have to deal with as a black comic is, you know, how do I tell this joke even though the crowd is 90% white? Can I make it relatable? Are they laughing at me or are they laughing with me? You know what I mean? So those are things I think about and really try heavily to craft my jokes so that they are laughing with me. I'm giving background. I'm not painting us out to be stupid or ridiculous. Anybody would act the way that we will in the situations we are. And to make that funny, that's the science of it. You know what I mean? So
right. And also, just to sidestep, just real quick, how did you feel about Bill Burr's monologue on SNL, or did you get a chance to see it?
Yeah, I seen it. I thought it was pretty funny. It was it's good to hear, you know, white people talk about those kinds of things and also to hear their perspective on it, because I think a lot of comics are afraid to talk about it. Number one, Bill Burr isn't going to mince words.
Right.
And, you know, his approach was, yeah, we're wrong, you know, as a people. And why are white women trying to step away from it as though they weren't complicit in all this shit as well? Like, it wasn't just us. And so I really like that. And it's not like we talk about that a lot, but it's not going to sound the same coming from a black comic as it will coming from a white comic. At the end of the day. So it's good to have allies like that can reach different audiences. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. But also, real quick, did you see that it was like a tweet that said that was Bill Burr, and he was like, yeah, white women were just as complicit as us, or they like take over the movement. And then in the next like slide, it was a picture of that naked woman who was just sitting on the road with her like legs open to the cops.
No, I did not see that.
So yeah, but no, it was just like, it was crazy to see that side by side. Like, I get the correlation between the two. But one question I have for you: how did you feel about the relationship between Keef and Adrian?
Adrian is that's the white girl, Adrian.
Yeah.
It's funny, man. I think it's a deeper concept what they introduced her for, and so at first I didn't like it. I thought it would have been more appropriate to have the first girl be white, the girl that dumped him and didn't stick with him, because I feel like most black women they support you through thick and thin until you know they can tell that you're not trying to support yourself. You know, they have your back through stuff. So I thought that was kind of, I didn't really buy that, like the black woman leaving him in his darkest spot of his life where he gets he starts hallucinating and shit. It's not, the black women I know aren't like that. So I thought it should have been flipped. Like he should have been with a white girl first, and then got with a black girl. But as the show went on, and you see that it's more so like he's actually really connecting with this white girl. She's obviously an ally. She was the only one in that party that was kind of understanding where he was coming from a little bit, and that when it got to the art show, and he's really like. I think there's a deeper concept where a lot of black people feel like they're not as black if they date a white girl or they date a white boy. Right. And that's not necessary. I mean, it's definitely not true. At the end of the day, you black no matter what, unless you're Sammy Sosa. Right. You can bleach your skin all you want, but you're still black. And so feeling like that took away from his blackness or him being afraid to talk about the same things with a white girl. I think there's a lot of people that crosses their brain. You know what I mean? How can I critique anything about our people or hold on any of us accountable if I'm dating a white girl or if I'm dating a white boy? You know what I mean? I feel like it just doesn't have as much clout when you find out one of these activists or leaders, wives or husbands is white for some reason. I can't even explain it, and I don't even necessarily think it's right. But at the end of the day, like it just comes off as ingenuine.
Yeah, no, for sure. And even when he did that Black People for Sale, and when she accidentally, she just put the shirt on, like not knowing how that may trigger him. And when he told her that, she immediately like took it off, just like, yo, that was and she apologized, like, yo, I didn't know it would be that big of a deal. That was my fault. That was my bad. And that just goes to show that like she knew where her place was as an ally. Like it's not your role as an ally isn't to be a black person, it's to be your support character.
Exactly.
And go ahead.
No, you go ahead. My bad.
No, and it just goes to show how like it's just like he was talking, like it seems like Keef just as a character and Lamone Morris on just like in general as a writer of the show, he was not only trying to talk, he was trying to talk to multiple audiences at the same time. Like it's okay if you don't understand everything that's going on, but this is how you should try to approach things. It's okay, like it's okay if you're black and you don't want to go all in with like being a part of the movement, but here's what you can do to make sure that you are still aware of like your surroundings, because like it can happen to it. A situation what happened to him could have happened to anyone. Right.
It could have. Absolutely. And that was an enlightening thing he said too, was he never thought it would happen to him. He thought it would happen to T. Murph's character. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which sheds a light on, I think a lot of black people feel that way, like, or just people in general feel like, well, if you're doing hood rat things, hood rat shit gonna happen to you. And that's not the case. You could be anybody and get mistaken for false identity, and the police really be tripping with you. Or even like we seen with Elijah McClain, rest in peace. Like he was the furthest thing from what you could consider a thug or a street nigga or something like that. And he got killed by the police. You feel me? So it really, you don't have to be in the streets to have shit like that happen to you, unfortunately.
Right. And even just like, I'll even use myself as an example. Like right after like I finished with college and I was back in Colorado, I used to like want to dress up all the time. So I was wearing like suits and ties everywhere. And I always like had a tie on. I always had like a collared shirt. I always had like hard bottom shoes on. And I was like, my mind was like, okay, well, now that I'm grown, let me act the part. Let me make sure that I'm always looking well dressed. I'm always looking well prepared, so that they don't, so that just like society takes me seriously. But just like as I got older and I started to notice, like it really didn't matter what I wore. They're still gonna see me the same. I started like, okay, so it really doesn't matter. Just like I'm gonna be black by the end of the day, so I might as well be comfortable with what I'm wearing again, what I talk about.
Man, you couldn't have said it any better, bro. When I got out of jail and I came back to Colorado, I was on the same tip. It's like I want to be different. I want to act different. I want to hang around different people. Jimmy, my homie Jimmy, he's taking me to these parties with white people and stuff like that. So I'm checking out how they dress. I'm trying to dress like a white boy. And at the same time, like, white girls are still afraid to talk to me. White dudes are still saying ignorant shit. Like, it don't matter how I dress, whether I got my pants sagging or I got a polo on or I got a Zoo York shirt. It really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you can't change your skin and how people perceive it and their subconscious. It's just nature. I would say human nature, but that is nature. You know what I mean? So the sooner you can identify it, the more human you can be as a person. Like, hey, I shouldn't judge that person just because they're black or just because they look like this or they, whatever the case may be. But that's the truest thing, bro. It don't matter how you dress. You're gonna get looked at the same.
Right. No, for sure. And the second part of what I wanted to talk to you about the second scene I wanted to talk to you about was the beer scene when Keef was having a beer with the officer. How did you feel just about like that scene in general?
Yeah, that was an interesting take to kind of, because it kind of puts you in a place of like, you never really get to hear what the officer may feel like or how the officer, is as a person. A lot of the time when something like that happens, me, I'm just like, I don't like police at all. I never have. They've never helped me in my life at all. So I always have a negative opinion of the police. And I've even met and known some police, growing up. So it's hard to separate the job from the person. And so that beer scene where they're supposed to get a beer with him and talk to him, you could tell he was putting on a front. But it was interesting to see, like, what are these police officers that could potentially kill somebody from doing an illegal or just a fucked up kind of move, as far as like trying to put somebody in handcuffs or, drawn down when they're not supposed to or something like that. Like, a lot of these dudes is family dudes that just have zero exposure to black people. But they also have a lot of biases and shit like that. But you also never really get to hear from them. So it was really cool to see, like, what could this actually look like? Maybe this person, is actually really ignorant, but he just wants to, put things to the side, say sorry, have the other dude say sorry. It definitely, I felt, was realistic, as far as like, soon as Keef wasn't trying to say sorry, then he started getting heated and he ended up arresting him and shit like that, which I could see happening. You know what I mean? Right. I feel like the type of people that career attracts is just like rappers. You know what I mean? Like, certain people want to rap for a reason, like, professionally. Certain people want to be an athlete. Certain people want to be a comedian. Right. And I think there's a lot of ego involved in a lot of those things, but I think police officer is another one. Like, you want to be a superhero. I think there's an ego that comes with that, and there's a certain personality type that comes with even just wanting to be a police officer, outside of like, want to be a detective or a criminal investigator or something like that. But being just wanting to be a police officer, I feel like it's only a certain type of people that want to be that, to be honest.
And one of the things I found interesting just about these few scenes in general was that he wasn't remorseful for his actual actions. He was more remorseful because his son started to view him as a monster when Keef was releasing those comics. So it wasn't that he felt remorse for what his actions caused to him and the lifelong trauma that he gave this black man. It was more so like, yo, I don't want to look like a monster to my son, because when I told him I was a cop, he viewed me as a superhero, and now he doesn't look at me the same. He looks at me like I'm a monster.
Right. He thought he was the victim.
Right. And when Keef's like, yo, you are a monster. And it's just like, we see those type of police officers. It's like all the time when it happens with the deaths of black people, just like across the nation, from Breonna Taylor, when they were like, oh, she's a goner, she's dead, to like the officers with Elijah McClain and how they were doing the chokehold, and even to George Floyd, who he knew the officer who shot him, Like they worked
Right.
together for like 20 years. So it's just like those type of people all have those still have all those similar mindsets, those similar character traits, as in they don't really it's kind of like the 3/5 rule. Like they don't really view black people as actual people.
Right. And they feel like they're up against the world. They're the superheroes. They're doing superhero jobs, and it's not their fault if they have to accidentally kill somebody that didn't deserve it, as long as they could save another 10 people in their minds.
Right.
Which, you know, if you look at the construct of the justice system, you're not helping nobody, because to serve and prevent crime is the goal, but what you're actually doing is just enforcing laws.
Right.
Which 9 times out of 10 is for profit, especially depending on where you are in America. There's a lot of revenue that's generated from putting people on probation, putting somebody in prison, having them build tables that are sold. You know, there's just a lot of money involved in that. You don't necessarily see that going into a police officer job.
Right. No, for sure. For sure. So just lastly, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give Woke Hulu?
I'm rooting for everybody black. 10 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah. No, I agree. I would say 9 out of 10. If there was one thing where that I just didn't, well, I was a fan of it, but I kind of wasn't. It was the when T Murph or Clovis and Ayana did that kind of like sort of would they get together, sort of wouldn't, and I was like I get it, like they were chilling on the couch, like, and we've all been there with like that cute girl who like is like bisexual or lesbian, but you still think you can crack, and like you didn't crack, but it's just like I feel like that relationship could have been explored more. But other than that, I really enjoyed the show.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think there's a lot of. It's hard to fit a lot of that into a episode that's 22 minutes, 44 minutes. You know what I mean? Even like The Wire, that's like one of my favorite shows ever, and those was like goddamn hour-long episodes, and it was only 5 seasons, and you still felt like there could have been more. So that, I mean, I have my critiques. If I'm being real, I would say, you know, as far as black television is concerned, I would give it like an 8 out of 10, just because I feel like there were certain things that I didn't agree with. But number one, I just love seeing, you know, black stories being told. I love seeing diverse black stories being told, as opposed to just another show where we're the laughing stock or we're a criminal, you know what I mean? And the criminal looked at in a bad light too. So it was good. It was refreshing to see something different, especially that touches on mental health.
Right. No, for sure. For sure. But okay. Lastly, today is Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. Chris, did you get a chance to see what Ice Cube did today?
Yeah, I listened to a snippet of what he was talking about. I think it was like 3 minutes long, what I listened to. But it sounds like he was able to sit down with some Republicans to talk about his agenda and what we want as a people, you know, what he's representing us for, as far as what we need as a people. But I haven't really looked too much into it outside of like the 3 minutes I saw on Instagram.
All right, so this was my take on it. So if you've been following Ice Cube for the past few months, he's been bashing the Democratic Party. He was like, y'all aren't for black people, y'all aren't for the common man, y'all aren't for minorities, y'all just use our vote, y'all just use us for clout, basically. Y'all just use us for our vote, y'all don't really care about our issues. And then it turned out that he was working with the Trump campaign. So it wasn't even the Republican Party. He was working directly with the Trump campaign while actively bashing the Democratic Party about their work with black people. So it's kind of like Ice Cube was the ops. That's what I got from it. It seemed like Ice Cube was like, yo, these people are bad, but I'm gonna work with the people who really don't care about you. And if you even looked at, I don't know if you got a chance to look at his the platinum plan, which is what he's calling it.
Right.
It's just a lot of like unrealistic goals that like can't be obtained in a society where Black people are viewed as second class citizens. Like one of the real jarring ones, it was like great urban communities with a high standard of policing, and so it's like, whoa, this is one of your plans. This is part of your plan. You want more police in our community when that's always been a problem. So that's just what it came off with as me.
Yeah, I definitely need to do more research into like what happened. As far as like what I understood, you know, he had tried to reach out to Democrats and was kind of like giving the cold shoulder and reached out. He reached out to both parties from what I was told and looked into, and the Republican Party actually heard him out. However, like based on his last video, it sounds like he's saying that don't nobody fuck with Black people, period. And so, I mean, even though Democrats, I think, are doing more for us in the moment at that the executive level, I think what he's wanting to get at is like holding our votes hostage for the next go around.
And the problem with that is like there might not be a next go around for a lot of Black people, just like considering where we are when it comes to like the wealth gap and just like the job gap and like unemployment. Like it hurts our communities more. So when a person of Ice Cube's stature who has been wealthy since at least the mid-90s says, yo, we need to hold our vote, we need to protect our vote, and it's kind of like, okay, it's easy for you to do that because you're a multimillionaire. Your kids don't have to worry, your grandkids don't have to worry, your great grandkids don't have to worry. But the reality is, just for a lot of African Americans, we don't have that luxury.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's a catch-22 because you know, if the Democrats can depend on our vote every single time, we're not going to be looked at. We're looked at as a commodity again.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's in the bag already. We're going to pander here and there. We're going to wear kente cloths and we're going to rename streets, and then them niggas still going to be broke. Right. We're going to still get this check. We're going to still get this chicken with the Republicans. Right. So at the end of the day, I feel like if you're registered to vote, you really need to worry about voting for your local laws, your local Congress people, your senators, because if we don't flip the Senate, even talking about if you are a Democrat, if we don't flip the Senate, it doesn't matter who the hell the president is, because at the end of the day, everything has to go through the Senate. So, you know, it doesn't matter if Kanye's president. If he wants to put something through, it still has to go through the House and then the Senate. So I think people need to research these Congress people and these senators and make sure you're voting for the right person. And you need to vote not only when it's an election year, but when it's, you know, every 2 years. Right. When there's an election in your city, you need to vote every time, because those are things that affect your day to day. And I remember back in, 2012, 2010, like all the laws that came about from that year, legalizing weed and all this shit, we got nothing from any of that. And they said a lot of that was supposed to go to the schools. Man, the schools are still fucked up. Right. If you look at DPS, they still closing schools. You know what I'm saying? Half the schools we went to are parking lots. So you really got to look at the loopholes and the fine print on a lot of these laws they're trying to pass. Because if it's not good enough, we can wait. I'd love for them to legalize mushrooms and cocaine and everything else too. But if it's not going to benefit us, if it's only going to benefit people that are already in power, what's the point of it? You know what I mean? So people just got to do their research and don't just look at the president. Look at these local leaders too, because you'd be surprised, even on a local level, who's selling us out for a check.
Right. No, for sure. Once again, I want to thank you, Chris, for taking time out of your busy schedule to kick it with me. Tell the people where your upcoming events are and where they can follow you on social media.
Right on. I appreciate you having me, Marcus. It's always good chopping it up with you and having a healthy conversation.
For sure.
Follow me on Instagram if you can, at Chris Inglewood. That's Inglewood with an I, not an E. No disrespect to the E. And my next show is at Lawrence and Larimer on October 25th, which is a Sunday, last Sunday of every month. Get the last laugh on the last Sunday at Lawrence and Larimer, 7 to 9 p.m. If you go on my Instagram page, there's a link where you can register. Everybody will be required to wear a mask and will be socially distanced. But we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna laugh. We're gonna fart maybe. We're gonna have a good time.
Okay, thank you. Once again, follow me on all social media platforms at Flow My Hero. Follow my co-host Morgan at Metro Meta 26. Make sure you're following the brand at 26 and Glencoe Media Network on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And until next time, peace.
All right, everybody. Y'all know who it is, Metro Meta and
At One Marcus Flowers.
And we'd like to thank you for watching and listening to our content. We'd like to thank you even more if you leave a like, a comment,
Subscribe. Definitely subscribe. We need that. Subscribe. Subscription.
and don't forget to share with all your friends and tell us how you feel.
And tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend that you got it from 26 and Glencoe Media Network.
Keep it real.